This presentation will review the critical skills for writing and common measures for each of those skills. Although there hasn't been a national writing panel established yet, looking at the research, there are kind of 7 key areas that are important components for written expression. And these include syntactic maturity, semantic maturity, which is vocabulary, content, the conventions of writing, legibility, fluency, and the writing process. And we're going to talk about each of these a little more. Syntactic maturity refers to sentence structure. So we're looking at how complicated sentences are. Are they related and logical? Is there use of transitions? So to measure that, we can look at a writing sample and summarize the different types of sentences that are included, if they're incomplete sentences, simple sentences, compound, complex sentences, run-ons, or fragments, and just look at those raw counts from a timed writing sample. We can look at T-units, which is the minimal terminal unit. It's the shortest unit that can stand alone within a sentence, that little clump of an idea within a sentence. And we can count those up in a writing sample. We can also evaluate things like topic sentences, so you can use rating scales or rubrics to look at that, at the presence of them, and then how well they're written, the relationship between sentences, that they flow in a logical order to make a complete thought, and the use of transitions between paragraphs and even between ideas within a paragraph. When we look at semantic maturity, we're looking at vocabulary use. So one way to assess that would be to examine the type-token ratio. So we'd count up the number of different words used in a writing sample and divide that by the total words written to get an idea of kind of that variety. How many different words are they using in a sample, or are they just repeating the same words over and over again? And then also the maturity of the vocabulary, so the big words. So words with 7 or more letters, and we can look at the number of these mature words divided by the total words, again to get an idea of the level of skill, the difficulty of the vocabulary that are being used in the writing sample. We also consider content when you're evaluating writing and how students' writing skills are progressing. So we can use rating scales to evaluate if they're providing original and relevant responses, that they include, if we're looking at stories, that they include the basic elements of a story. If there's a prompt or some kind of question that they're writing on the topic and including basic elements that are appropriate and relevant to the task at hand, and that the writing is organized as well. So we can use rubrics, rating scales to evaluate these issues that are also critical to writing performance. Conventions are the mechanical aspects of writing, such as capitalization, punctuation, and spelling. And this is an important part of writing as well, and it's important to understand the different types of convention errors that can occur in writing, so those can be targeted for intervention too. So things that you might look at are number of words spelled correctly in a writing sample, the proportion of errors in different categories. So Howell and Nolet, who developed the curriculum-based evaluation approach that we talked about earlier this quarter, they have developed a list of 50 capitalization and punctuation conventions, and you'd be able to go through a writing sample and see where the errors were occurring in each of these specific categories. We also look at number of correct writing sequences, and this is one of our curriculum-based measurement tools. And we're going to learn more about that in another presentation and hopefully through what you've read this week. But basically we're looking at each correct pair of adjacent words or punctuation that fit in context in the overall sentence. So this goes beyond just looking at the word spelled correctly or the total number of words written, but getting a sense, do these words make sense connected in context to make a coherent thought? And this is the most technically sound of CBM for progress monitoring, is the number of correct writing sequences. Penmanship is also another important characteristic or quality of writing, especially when we're talking about the early elementary grades. So students need to have good penmanship so the teacher can understand what meaning they're trying to convey through their writing sample. And also, if students have poor penmanship or struggle to write, that can interfere with their motivation to write and develop their skills. So for penmanship, we may evaluate the spacing between letters and words, the letter size, how it's aligned, the line quality, letter slant, letter formation, and style. And for some of these things, in addition to intervention we may do in the classroom, these may call for further intervention with, say, the occupational therapist or physical therapist in a school. As with all of our academic skills, we want students to develop fluency with writing. So we want this to be, if they have thoughts in their mind, that they can automatically and accurately convey those thoughts through writing. And some measures of that include our curriculum-based measurement of number of words written, so total words written, what they actually produce, their writing sample. And then we can also look at the average length of sentences to get an idea as just an indicator of fluency. Finally, we want to make sure that students have knowledge of the writing process and just what it takes to create a quality writing sample. So the writing steps include planning, what you're going to write, thinking through your thoughts, transcribing or drafting, so actually getting it out on paper, then reviewing and revising that work, understanding what needs to be changed, then actually editing the material, and then the final step, which is called publishing, but it's just your final clean draft, your final sample of what you're trying to say.